Mainstream entertainment. Ruslan.
I really wanted to talk about the future of hip hop, CHH, and in response to what Phanatik said in the Southside Rabbi video, just the way that it's sold as a product rather than as a culture and kind of selling out the culture. And do you ever think that CHH will ever be as big as it once was in that kind of big 116 movement era? Or will everything just be in remembrance of that?
Real quick, just context, 350 Music, super dope artist from South Texas. He is asking about KB's interview with Phanatik. Phanatik is one of the legends in this entire Christian hip-hop thing. If you guys have never heard of Cross Movement, you're kind of sleeping. Cross Movement was a big group in late 90s, early 2000s, Cross Movement Records. That's who Lecrae kind of was signed to early on, before Reach Records was even a thing. And so I actually met Cross Movement one of the nights I gave my full profession of Jesus. It was at a Miles McPherson crusade in San Diego, and I think the year was 2001, 2002. I don't quite remember. Nevertheless, I met Phanatik. He probably doesn't remember me, but I like Phanatik, and this is kind of an age-old conversation, but I wanted to talk about it because 350 is a member of the community, and I know this kind of stuff is important to him, so I wanted to get into this. What we're going to do first is we're going to play the clip he's referring to, and we're going to unpack that a bit before we talk about the future of Christian music, Christian hip-hop. It's good to have some degree of context. And then also KB's prediction on this. Shout out to Southside Rabbis, friends of the channel. I love KB. I love Amin. Obviously, we have a great interview with them here on the channel. But let's play this clip from Phanatik and kind of talk about this for a bit.
So I think Christian hip-hop is in some ways a microcosm of hip-hop in the sense that you call it a movement. Mm-hmm. But even people within hip-hop will recognize that they did not always treat it like a movement. Mm-hmm. They treated it sometimes the way capitalism demands that you treat things, like a product. Yeesh. And so
the language, catch the language. They treat it the way that capitalism demands that you treat things like a product. There's an introduction of the idea of capitalism. Now, I don't know Phanatik's view and definition of capitalism, but that's an interesting introduction into this conversation. Let's keep watching.
So, treating it like a product, you do what it takes to sell a product. But in selling the product, you may end up either having to sell out to sell the product or sell out your culture to sell the product.
So, again, the idea introduced of capitalism, Christian hip-hop, it being this dichotomy of potentially selling out. Right, the age-old, you sell out to sell more. You sell your values, your principles to sell more. I don't know what he's alluding to. I think I know what he's alluding to, but I don't know. I think I have an idea. Let's keep watching this clip.
Facts.
Even Jay-Z recognized, if I could be who I wanted to be lyrically, I would be Talib Kweli.
Right.
Wish I could rhyme like Common Sense, but I sold 5 mil. I ain't been rhyming like
Common Sense.
Oh,
that's good. That's very true.
You do things for the sake of the product that you wouldn't do if you were thinking about your people. And I think Christian...
You do things for the sake of the product that you wouldn't do if you were thinking about your people.
Pop has in some ways followed that trend in the sense of what is it going to take for the product, not necessarily thinking about what you're going to do for the people. Which is why I referenced the video that you put up recently where I think that was just an excellent idea to think, what do the people need? What does the culture need?
Right.
So I lament anything that has died that has us thinking more about the product than the people.
Right. That's good.
That's what I lament.
That's good.
What am I glad about that has died?
How do you feel about what he just said as a young, aspiring Christian hip-hop artist? You just went to Reach Records for the first time. Your name is buzzing. How do you feel about that description of this idea of the product not always being good for the people, and sometimes you got to compromise the product? How does that make you feel as an emerging artist?
It makes me very, very concerned because, of course, everybody, when we start off, we always start off with a mission. And, with a mission in mind, but then comes a time where you get one of these, and you want to keep doing what you love, but you also want to support those that you love as well.
So hold on. That's a very wise thing you just said. Say that one more time.
There comes a time where you want to do what you love, but you have to support the people that you love as well. And you kind of have to gauge that. And there is a little aspect of faith there. You know what I mean? How much do you really trust God with your career? And do you really think that God wants you to do this? You know what I mean? Which is a big conversation you and your significant other, if you're married, need to have. It's super concerning because you make the music that you think the culture wants, right? In order to sell, sacrificing, giving them what they truly need. And it's kind of, in the young term, it's kind of sus, but you know what I mean? Like it's just, you know, very concerning, bro, because in the trajectory that we're all going in, you know, and this is why I allude to the future of Christian hip hop. Like, is it more that we're going to have to be selling out more in order to keep up with and provide for our family, or will we be able to do the music that we love while supporting our family?
Wow. Okay, yo, first of all, 350, y'all go follow 350 Music. Kudos to you for being such a young man that with so much wisdom. You're only 23, and that was such a great description of, you know, if you got to do what you love, but sometimes you got to, you know, provide for those who you love. That's a very good assessment. Here's my thing, and this is, people don't like when I start talking about this, and I'll be transparent. I think Phanatik is speaking from Phanatik's paradigm. I was thinking this conversation, if I was born 30 years earlier, where would I be as an entrepreneur? Where would I be in this climate as a business person? Where would I be as an artist if I came up in Phanatik's time? If I came up at the time these guys were emerging, where would I be? Here's the thing. I think here's the thing that we're missing is the truth is, with where we are with technology, information, and redemptive capitalism, as KB would call it, or I would call ethical wealth building, Phanatik says sometimes you put the product before what the people need. However, the best product is what the people need. So the very best thing you could provide and sell, providing the solution to the problem people have. That is actually what capitalism does, believe it or not. Capitalism isn't just giving you the janky version, the watered down version. No. Capitalism is actually giving you what you really need. You just don't know you have that problem yet. And obviously people all need Jesus, and so we're talking about it in a spiritual sense. But I think this is the part we're actually missing. And I don't mean Phanatik is missing as if the dude's brilliant, he's intelligent, he's, you know, OG in the game. But what I think he's missing is we keep creating this false dichotomy, this false conflict, and it doesn't have to be one. The truth is, if you give people what they need, maybe they don't know they need it, that is the best product. That is the very best product. The solution is the very best product. I'll give you an example. 15 years ago, we all didn't know we needed smartphones. We didn't know we needed smartphones. Now we all have smartphones. It put the people first, and it said, there's a need that people have. Let me figure out how to solve a need that people have that they don't even know. Any of our modern technology today is emerging technology, emerging products to solve problems people don't know they have yet. Whether that's Airbnb, whether that's the freaking iPhone, whether that's connecting better with Zoom, whatever it is, it's literally solving problems and giving products to problems that people don't even know they have yet. So this to me is a false dichotomy. And again, I don't know what it was like when Phanatik was coming up or when Jay-Z said that line. But what did Jay-Z do now at 50 years old? He put out 444, the most introspective album about marriage counseling and therapy and deep thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is a false notion that you have to, that capitalism and serving God and being authentic and creating a healthy, valuable product are in conflict with each other. They're not. They're not. The best product is focused on the people. And this is so obvious that even Gary Vee says this. Put the market first. The market decides. The people decides. If you look at marketing in the way I approach marketing, I follow the storyboard model from Donald Miller, who's a Christian. By the way, Christians are influencing the world of marketing. What is Donald Miller's entire premise? Add value to the people. This is where we are now in 2020. So I don't know. It seems like Phanatik just may not grasp that this is where we are from a marketing standpoint, and therefore he's missing it. You don't have to do this. So to say, oh, you can't have a great product without compromising the people, not in 2020. Not in 2020, because I'm making the best music I've ever made, and I don't really care how many streams it gets, because I know if I give people what they actually need, which in the grand context of things, with this channel, with my music, with my business, is the gospel of Jesus, right? Outside of the methodology and how we package it and whatever, how many Christocentric words I say and how many theological terms, if we're all saying the same thing, Jesus, this is what people need. That is the best product. The product sells itself. It's incredible. And so we keep creating these false dichotomies. And again, maybe that was true for Jay-Z in 2003. But guess what? Today we have this whole new world of the internet. And then there's also bad products that, quote unquote, help people in the wrong way. So that's my first assessment. I think it's a false dichotomy to assume that capitalism and problem solving are in conflict with each other. They are not. They're actually intertwined together. And if you make great products, you will help people and put the consumer's needs first. That is what a great product is. By definition, the actual definition is make a great product. How do you know it's a great product? Because people want it. People want it because they have a need for it. You're solving a problem. Simple. This is like simple stuff. So what do you think of that when I just described that for you in a second? Like, how do you feel about that when I describe this other side of like, you don't have to choose?
Right. I mean, it's basically the idea of supply and demand. So people, they need to be talking about something. Say you have an album about depression, and then what came out? Like nobody was making an album about depression. Then XXXTentacion comes and is #1 on the hip hop charts, with an album about depression that we didn't think we needed at the time, but he obviously saw through that. So I think it's pretty spot on with the idea of supply and demand. Following up on that, how do you think that CHH will ever be at that peak point that it was a few years back, like 2014, 2015?
Of CHH. Right. And so let me play that. Shout out to KB. I love KB.
Perhaps the Lord doesn't want to do #1 albums for us anymore. He doesn't want to do sold out tours for us anymore. He wants to allow us to be able to make money and live off of what we do. That's very possible. You can have a good job in Christian hip hop without making hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Maybe that the Lord would want us to just return to the simpler times. Yeah, man.
Mm.
Where we're simply trying to awaken people. And I think that's the value of, that's what I'm so glad about the new music that's coming out for you from a lot of these new Christian hip hop artists that are starting to spit more and more. They're turning the corner and they're like, yeah, I want that for my fans. And I think as that is happening, the movement as it is will reemerge, not with all the entrapments of fame, and not that fame is bad, but fame is dangerous. But I think we will emerge as a faithful group of men and women, for that matter.
So 350, how do you feel about that portion of it?
I mean, if you think about it, everyone really wants to be supported by your fan base. But in light of what he's saying, I mean, there's nothing really. He's talking about God's hand over our lives in CHH. There's nothing really that we can do about that. So I'm kind of like, how do I prepare for that, in a sense? If he feels that God is leading us into a direction where it's solely about the culture, not really about the money, then we have to prepare as artists to provide for ourselves, maybe in the way that you say, talent stacking. You know what I mean? And that again, that's just concerning. It's just more work, more entrepreneurial.
Yeah, as it should be. So let me break it down this way. Okay, so KB specifically connected success with #1 albums. I wouldn't mind a #1 album. I wouldn't mind a Grammy. I wouldn't mind $1 million, right? Wouldn't mind any of that. I've never used those metrics as a way to measure my success as a creative and as a Christian, ever. So, is it possible that we'll never have another Lecrae Anomaly moment where he sells 90,000 albums first week and he's the #1 rap album in the... Sure, it's very possible. Very possible that never happens again. But my metric for success, me personally as Ruslan, has never been measured by album sales, by industry recognition, by whether or not I'm on the Breakfast Club or not, by whether or not I'm influential in culture or not. It literally, I've never met. You know what my metric is? Hey, can I provide for my family and live a comfortable life while preaching the gospel through my art and through my lifestyle? Can we do that today? Absolutely, we can do that today. Can we do that today and make a nice living? Absolutely, we could do that today and make a nice living. My gauge for success. So if you're looking at it like, will we have another Lecrae breakout star, Grammy? Will we have that? Maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't matter because, again, we are in a new day and age. So an artist can never win a Grammy, have a #1 album, or have a sold-out tour, and actually, a Christian rapper, and actually reach and touch more people than Lecrae with the gospel. How could you touch more people with Lecrae? Oh my gosh. Because of this little app called TikTok, where people could have tens of millions of followers and be Christian rappers, right? And there are Christian rappers on I'm not talking wavy cool rappers. I'm talking like openly Christian rappers, right? Jesus bars with millions of followers on TikTok who will never have a sold out show, who will never have a Grammy, who will never have a #1 album, but they're actually impacting more people. It's happening right now in 2020. That's happening right now. We're touching and we're reaching more people as Christians in hip hop or Christian rappers or Christian influencers than we ever before. So I don't care what the Breakfast Club says. I don't care what the Grammy Association says. I don't care about any of those because those are all worldly metrics that are really, it's really a status game. That's what all of that, what that really is really a status game. Because in order for Lecrae, it's like the Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. That's literally the mentality behind all that. So because there could only be one Lecrae, there could only be one #1 album. Remember that. There could only be one #1 album. Because if you don't got the #1 album, who remembers the #3 album? But the #3 album is a massive feat. That we're in a new world. It's not about that. How many people do you reach? How many people do you impact through your music? How many people can you be in front of? This channel touches over 300,000 unique viewers every single month. 300,000 unique viewers. My music gets played on it a little bit. I preach the gospel. I interview my friends. It's pretty freaking amazing. 300,000 unique viewers every single month. We get 1 million views a month on this channel. This is my little rinky-dink 37,000 subscriber channel. So to me, I don't care about a Grammy or a #1 rap album. And by the way, you got to define what your goals are. So 350 Music, you got to figure out what your goals are. My goal is very specific. I want to own a paid-for home outright in the area I want to live in Southern California, right? And I want to own a Tesla. Boom. I know what my goal is. I know exactly that dollar amount. I know exactly how I'm going to get there. It might take me 1 year. It might take me 5 years. It might take me 20 years. I will get there because I know what the objective is. And I'm talking monetarily. Obviously, my goal is to influence people, empower outliers to live God's dream. That's the mission. I know what my actual goal is. So if you're getting into this thing and you're just like aimlessly wandering with no goals, with no vision, and you think it's going to be like the good old days where you didn't have to know how to use a camera, you didn't have to know how to be on TikTok, you didn't have to know how to, well, yeah, you're in for a rude awakening if you think you're going to take the model that Phanatik and Lecrae and the Reach Records guy applied 10, 15 years ago, and you think that's going to work now. It's not. It's not. So I think KB's paradigm is KB's paradigm. KB is looking at Dove Awards and Winter Jam and sold out concerts. That I've never done any of those things, and I've always grossed 6 figures off of this little music thing I do over here in the cut, and it keeps growing by the grace of God. So, but you're right, 350. It is going to require more effort. It's going to require more work. But again, I keep pointing back to people. Nick D, 100,000 followers on TikTok in a month. My man did it in a month, in 4 weeks. Why don't we see that many Christian hip-hop artists on TikTok? Who's on TikTok really creating native videos for TikTok? Nick D and Paul Russell. That's it. Where everybody else at? Why don't we see it? Because it's about the status game. It's about being on these playlists or that playlist or whatever, right? And it's like, yo, there's this whole other world out here, right? There's this whole other world out here with all kinds of people who don't know anything about a Reach Records or Lecrae, but they would like your music, 350, and they may like my music if it was just put in front of them. The world is way bigger. And that's been my issue with Christian hip-hop, is we keep sitting here and we keep fighting for the same 100,000 Instagram followers, and there's millions of people out there that may like what you do if it was presented to them, but we're fighting for the same 100,000 people that follow Lecrae and follow Reach Records and follow Rapzilla. No diss to any of those guys. But we're in a brand new world. So I'm not threatened by any of this. I think KB could be right. Or somebody in obscurity from the community, like a Paul Russell or like a Nick D, can slowly sit here quietly, chipping away, building up their catalog, boom, doing a partnership with the Columbia, getting a #1 album, and just kind of do it below, just like Russ did it. just like Russ did. That is also too very possible. But it doesn't really matter to me because I don't really care. Like, I really don't care. What are your goals? What are your objectives? If the goal is to be famous, that's not a good goal. Like, the goal should never be, oh, I just want to be famous and popping. For what? You know the headache? If the goal is, hey man, I want to make a comfortable living. I want to be generous to my local church. I want to own my home and my car outright. I don't want to be dependent on anybody. Yeah, dude, this is the best time, in my opinion. It's so much better now to start than 10 years, than 5 years, because you can literally build a massive audience in a short window of time by leveraging these things. But let's be real. Yes, it requires more work. And it's not a zero-sum game, by the way, because check this out. In order for Nick D to win on TikTok, Paul Russell doesn't lose on TikTok. They both win on TikTok. Nick D has 100,000 followers in a month. Paul Russell has 200,000 followers in 2 or 3 months. That's not a zero-sum game. There is no number one and number two. Everybody's winning. Everybody's winning. Everybody's getting it. Everybody can make money. I feel like we could all be rich, like in terms of this thing. You know what I'm saying? Again, that's not the objective, but it's just our paradigm, right? So I don't know, man. Sold out tours, but it's just not how I measure success with any of this stuff. I just don't. You know what I mean? So I don't mean to sound harsh or whatever, but I'm passionate about this stuff because I think if we have these things up front, and I have to ask 350, what are your goals? And you say, man, homes are $200,000 in South Texas. I don't need to live in LA or New York. I just want to have a $200,000 home. I want to have a dope car. I want to be able to, eat the food I want, go where I want, do some shows here and there, and provide for my family. And I'll be like, 350. You could absolutely do that in the next 5 to 7 years. Without a doubt. I believe you can, not because you're a good rapper, but because you're a good rapper and you're willing to learn, you're willing to adapt, you're very likable, you make fire music, you pick up cameras, you learn stuff, and you could totally do that. But if the goal is, I want to be the next Lecrae or I want to be the next NF, why? For what? For what? Like that shouldn't be our goals. That's the comparison game. That's that Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last. It's a zero-sum game, right? But we could all make it to making whatever, 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, in terms of creatives who know how to talent stack, work very hard, have a vision, put in the work. One of my favorite YouTubers, and this is the cream of the crop. But meet Kevin, who's a dope YouTuber, makes 4 or 5 videos a day, uses a similar format that I do. Meet Kevin started the beginning of COVID with 100,000 followers, okay? By the time May rolled around, Meet Kevin had, I believe, like 800,000 subscribers. Meet Kevin revealed his May income on YouTube AdSense. This man made $250,000 off of YouTube alone. Not counting courses, not counting products, not counting merch. $250,000 in 1 month off of YouTube AdSense. Now that's the cream of the crop. Okay, but if Meet Kevin could do that, what makes you think that you can't create some type of content or a product or whatever and make $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month? So there's a lot of people doing that right now and living very comfortable lives without compromising their morals and their faith.
Mainstream entertainment. Ruslan.